In a world that is seeing an increase of things being recorded and written down, there are still places where things are not documented, which prevents a centralized code from existing, as seen with what Edmund Hoyle did with a lot of Western games. Because of this, it allows for a single game with no centralized code of rules to have numerous versions to it that are played in a wide range of regions within a country. Due to this fracturing, players will have to ask for clarification when it comes time to play, even if said player has acquired a lot of experience playing said game. Greetings and welcome back to Checkpoint Gaming, Chess. With this episode, we will be going over Sittuyin. With Sittuyin, it is a game traditionally played in Burma, and though it has its unique presentation of its initial array of pieces, it shares a number of similarities to that of Chaturanga. Its differences can be seen with the fact that its pieces haven't been rendered into simplified and abstract designs. Instead, its pieces have been designed to depict people, animals, and the occasional legendary warrior. It is worth noting that with the rules that we address here, they're based upon the rules established by the Burmese Chess Federation that were established after World War II, at least what the United States calls World War II, although other countries might call it something different, such as the Great Patriotic War, as seen with Russia and other former Soviet states. With all of that said, the game mechanics we list here isn't universal since there isn't a unified body of rules that exist for the game. So the rules of play can vary from region to region, thus requiring people to ask about the exact variant being played when it comes time to actually play. With that said, we would like to know what these variants are so that we can help share said information with the wider world. The only thing that is universal is the game's objective, which is to put the enemy king into checkmate. Unlike that of its Western cousin of chess, which sped up the game by making some of its pieces to be more powerful, as seen with their moveset, Sittuyin keeps the old piece movement. With that said, it sees its initial setup moving the pieces closer to each other. With the size of the board, it is played upon an 8x8 square grid and is without a checkered pattern. With the pieces, they're typically colored red and black, with each player having a total of 16 pieces. Each player has 8 soldiers, 2 chariots, 2 horsemen, 2 elephants, a commander, and a king, with neither king being known as Elvis. With the soldiers, the red soldiers depict demons while the black soldiers depict monkeys. The reason behind this is in reference to Thai mythology, where demons fought the god Rama and Hanuman's monkeys. Regarding the movement of the pieces, it consists of a combination of moves that are similar to that of chess, while others tend to be more ancient in nature. With that of the king, horseman, and chariot, their movement is the same as in chess, while the commander, elephant, and soldier are of the more ancient movement style. With the king, it can move one space in any given direction. He also can't move into a position where he faces the threat of being captured. With the commander, which is also known as the general, is equivalent to that of the queen in chess, and it can move only one space in any diagonal direction. With the elephant, its equivalent is that of the bishop, and it can move one square along any diagonal as well as one square forward. With the horseman, its equivalent is that of the knight, and it can move 2 squares along the same rank or file, followed by 1 square over, thus creating a right angle in an L-shaped pattern. And this formula can be that of 2 then 1 or 1 and then 2. It just depends upon what the player wants, along with what is available. It is worth noting that the horseman is the only piece that is unable to be blocked by another piece, so if another piece is found in the horseman's way, it'll just jump over it. With the chariot, which is also known as the carriage, is equivalent to that of the rook, and it is able to move to any desired number of squares that is found along the rank or file from the square that it is currently located. And with the soldier, it is equivalent to that of the pawn, and it can move just one space forward when not capturing. But in order for it to engage in capturing, it'll have to move forward diagonally to do so. With that said, it doesn't have that double move as part of its initial action. With all of the other pieces, their capture motion is the same as their regular movement. When it comes to that of pawn promotion, it can only be promoted to that of the commander, and only then when their commander isn't found upon the board. On top of this, the pawn can only be promoted once it reaches the marked squares found upon the enemy side of the board. These marked squares are indicated by the large X found crossing the particular board area. Only when reaching one of these lines can it be promoted, although this promotion doesn't occur immediately. It can only do this when the pawn leaves the square of promotion. And when leaving the square of promotion, the pawn isn't allowed to promote if it's capable of capturing the enemy king or commander. In addition to this, if a player has a pawn found upon a square of promotion and it hasn't been promoted yet, said player can promote it at any time as long as it's one of these squares and their respective commander is found off of the board. Doing so counts as the player's move for that given turn. But once a soldier has passed the diagonal line found upon the far side of the board, then it cannot be promoted. When it comes to that of setting up the game, the red player will set up all of their pieces first, followed by the black player doing the same. The red player is to start off by setting up their pawns upon the board with 4 pawns placed upon the 4 left squares of the 3rd rank, with the other 4 pawns placed upon the 4 right squares of the 4th rank. With the placement of the remaining pieces, each player has a limited amount of freedom in their placement with the following restrictions in place. With the player's first rank, it is reserved for the rooks. With that said, the player can place the rook anywhere they wish upon said rank. From there, the remaining pieces are to be placed upon the board wherever they wish as long as it's found upon their 2nd and 3rd ranks as well as behind their rows of pawns. Once red has set up their pieces, black will begin placing theirs. During setup, the black player is not allowed to place their chariot upon a direct line with the opponent's king unless there is at least one piece, other than that of a soldier, positioned between the chariot and the king. It doesn't matter what color this other piece is, as long as said piece has been positioned between the chariot and the king. The purpose behind this is to reduce any possible advantage the black player might have due to knowing exactly where red has placed their given pieces and prevent an immediate attack by the black player. A variant that is available is to have each player be allowed to place a major piece onto a square that is already occupied by one of their soldiers. If they do this, then the replaced soldier is to be moved to another square that is available behind the soldier's line as long as it's empty. Once both players have set up their given pieces, red is to make the first move with the players alternating their piece movement, one piece at a time, during each turn until the game comes to an end. With that of capturing an enemy piece, it is done as part of the piece's normal movement, unless it has to do with the soldier, which can only capture by moving diagonally forward. With the king, it is never allowed to be captured during gameplay. And whenever a player's king finds itself being threatened with capture, it is known as check, and said player will have to either move their king or to move another piece so that the king becomes protected. In order for the game to come to an end, one of the kings will have to be threatened with capture, with no legal moves being available for it to be protected. In this situation, it is known as checkmate, and it sees the checkmated player lose the game. With all of that said, stalemates aren't allowed to occur within Sittuyin. Because of this, it is not permitted to trap the opposing king where it has no legal moves, while at the same time not actually putting it into a position of check or checkmate. The opposing king will have to possess a legal move, but if a player puts their opponent into a position that will lead to stalemate, they'll have to undo that move and perform another one. But if the players find themselves in a situation where neither player has the ability to checkmate their opponent, then the game ends in a draw. So with that said, that is what you need to know about Sittuyin. With that taken care of, we can start talking Zhanggi. If you liked this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode, and happy gaming.